Welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam. So, Toy Story 4. That is what we have today. My showing was supposed to be at 6, but it started a little bit late because, as it turns out, my IMAX screen at the AMC I go to runs on Windows. That's not even a joke. This isn't even a joke. This literally happened. It runs on Windows 95. So, this isn't the first time this has happened where I go to this theater and I see an IMAX showing on opening night, and I don't know what the problem is, but whenever they transfer over from whenever they're showing earlier in the day to the new thing, the Noovie crap that they played before, where it's like a bunch of glorified ads for like Amazon Prime shows or other nonsense, that wasn't working, and it was complete dead silent in the theater except for the people around talking. And then what happens is by the time the movie's ready to start, you've skipped all of that and it goes right to the coming attractions. Or usually it does like the AMC, like, thank you for choosing AMC, and then like that graphic. So that was what I was anticipating happening, because I was sitting there in total silence. And then at like 5:55, it starts doing the coming attraction stuff. And then the screen, there's this new thing, Share AMC, which is our hashtag, and the screen is, what's it called? And then it gets locked up on a screen that says Share AMC. It stays on that screen for about 10 minutes, because at that point it is 6:10. And the reason I know that is because I have my phone off. I turn my phone off during the movies usually. Number one, to conserve battery, because either before or after I'll go and I'll play like Pokemon Go or something at the local mall. Or now Wizards Unite too. I'll do one of those while I'm shopping, and then so it drains my battery a lot. So that way, when I'm done, I can just record this from my phone after in my car. I turn my phone off, so it's set. But at 6:10, I turn my phone back on, take a picture of the fact that my theater, the screen is the screen goes into like not even a blue screen, but like your desktop has crashed, and the computer that's running the IMAX showing of this movie is Windows 95. That's not a joke. That's not an exaggeration. It is literally Windows 95 running IMAX. I don't think that's how it should be working, because I don't know if it has the processing power to handle it. So what it seems like happening is the computer can't quite handle it properly to transfer over. Like, in my head, looking at this, if it's projecting it, shouldn't they just have like kind of like an arranged slideshow of movies, where it's like it's gonna run here in my head. Here's how this should work, and I have no idea how projection works or how any of this works. What should happen is they should just have it queued up at the beginning of the day. Here's the first screening at this time. So from open until this time, it's gonna show the Noovie crap. Then it shows the thing. Then between that showing and the next showing, back to Noovie crap, and so on and so on. And then it's just set up. I don't understand why this happens literally every time. This has happened for Endgame too. I saw Endgame in IMAX when I first saw it, and it did this too, but usually it corrects itself. I seem to recall with Homecoming, this was a similar issue, where I saw it in 3D, but it was out of alignment for some reason, where it's like someone had to go and complain and they fixed it. So then 10 more minutes elapsed, and it's now 6:20 for a 6 o'clock showing. And someone finally comes into the theater and goes, "Guys, we're sorry, something's wrong. If we don't have it up in 5 minutes, we're going to give you vouchers, you can come back." And I'm thinking to myself here as I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is a 6 o'clock showing on opening night. This is a unique thing. There's no other 6 o'clock opening night that I can do. It's not. It's one thing to be able to say, "Oh, I'll come back another time," if it was like a 2 o'clock on a Tuesday, but this is opening night or preview night, and so people have to work tomorrow. You have kids in the audience, and it's an ordeal. So yeah, giving one free pass, I don't think is right. They gave I think that in that situation where they have to cancel the movie, they should give 2 free passes, one to compensate for this, and then your next time should also be free. As for me, I have AMC A-List. But anyway, I still got one of those little readmit passes, because it took them 25 minutes to get the screen working. Screen finally comes on. They're finally playing the coming attractions. Fortunately, we only had to sit through one, and it was the tail end of the Lion King IMAX trailer. And one other thing that was happening is, as the white screen that says your desktop has crashed is on the screen, they're playing like AMC radio, which I guess is what they would play on the intercom in the rest of the movie theater. So then what happens is The Lion King comes on, and it just so happened they were playing Under the Sea from Little Mermaid, and that's the song that's playing over the Lion King trailer. And I'm like, I feel like I'm having a stroke, because this is just a bizarre thing all around. So then by the time it gets to, then it's like, there's like a thing that they do. It's like, please turn off your phones, and please shut the fuck up during the movie. They're not that blunt about it. They're a little bit kinder. But that's functionally what the message is when they get to that part of the thing. Is it's like the satellite is like, you are not alone. So it's like, during that part, it's still playing the music. You can't hear what the screen's saying. It's still just playing the music. And then it gets to the Walt Disney logo, and it just like, and then it's like it freezes, because and then the music eventually cuts out after a good 2 minutes. Music cuts out, and it resyncs to the soundtrack of the movie, and it starts. And from there, there's no issue. So yeah, that was just a little fun thing that happened at this showing. That kind of, got the mood set for this movie. I'm conflicted about this movie. Movie, of course, Toy Story 4. The last time I saw a Toy Story movie in theater was when Toy Story 2 came out, which I want to say was 2000. My grandmother brought me and my brother. I was like 6 years old, and, so she brought us to a movie theater near my house. It is this little shithole theater that had like 6 screens, and it always was not the cleanest. The seats weren't that great. It was a cheap theater, though, so we went there, and, Movie Pass wasn't a thing, so we had to, we made do. We saw Toy Story there. Toy Story 2 there. I may have seen the original Toy Story in theaters. I don't remember if I did. I don't remember it, because I was way too young then. So Toy Story 2 I saw was the last one. This one, I did not see 3. This one, here we are. I have conflicted feelings about the movie purely because of, number one, the auxiliary cast might as well not be there. And that would shave a good 20 minutes off the runtime. I'm talking auxiliary cast. First of all, the entire prologue with Andy and Andy's sister, whose name I can't remember, and what's it called? That whole part felt kind of like tacked on because they didn't expect anyone to remember who Bo Peep was. And I feel like that was more because they were anticipating a lot of younger kids coming to see it who may not have seen 1, 2, and 3. So they were like, let's just tack this on. But I feel like that's an unnecessary part of the story, is Bo Peep being, brought away, because in Toy Story 3, it's acknowledged that some of the toys got sold away, and then he even says, like Bo Peep. So I feel like that was a auxiliary piece of the story that really didn't add too much. And so that was my first problem, is that sequence should have been omitted. Then any sequence on the RV with, first of all, Buzz isn't even a major character in this. Buzz is not important to the story at all. He can be omitted completely. And it's not like where, like, both Key and Peele's characters, Bunny and Ducky, aren't necessary to the story either, but they're, they're hilarious every time they're on screen, the two of them. And same thing with Keanu Reeves as Duke Kaboom. He's got one part he plays, and he's got 2 major things he does in the movie, but besides that, he's not exactly 100% needed to the plot. But he's like the plot. He's there for the plot because the plot requires him to be there. But there's situations they could have done that would have not required him to be there. But either way, it's like he's funny when he's on screen. So it's fine. I have no problem with him being there. Buzz, it doesn't feel... First of all, Buzz and Woody's relationship, I said this when Kingdom Hearts 3 came out, and I feel the same after seeing this one. Buzz and Woody are like an old married couple at this point, and it's kind of hilarious. Because, first of all, in this movie, the longest embrace between 2 characters is Woody and Buzz, and that's including the fact there's a girl who is lost, and her parents are worried about her, and the girl gets found. And then it's like, that embrace is not as long as Woody and Buzz in the final. Again, I'm going to say this, spoiler, because the name of it is in the title. Beware of spoilers. But I do spoil the movie in these things. When Woody does finally make the decision at the end to go away and stay with Bo Peep, it feels like it's the longest embrace movie as those two. That's my first thing that I have. The first issue I have with this movie is that, like, the auxiliary cast shouldn't even be there. Like, why is Jessie there at all? She pops the tires on the RV, but that's it. Rex does nothing. Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head, very little. Slinky, outside of the very beginning of the movie when he's helping to rescue RC, who is then never heard from again in the entire rest of the movie, he does nothing the entire rest of the movie. The movie is fundamentally about Woody, Forky, and Bo Peep. And that's it. What else is there I wanted to address with this? The ending. I don't think they can do a 5 based on how this movie ended, and let me explain that. So, Toy Story 3 is about Woody coming to terms with the fact that Andy is gone. That Andy is too old, and now they have to move on, after that. So they get sent to Bonnie. And now Woody has another existential crisis, which seems to be a common thing in all these movies, is Woody has an existential crisis and then causes all the problems for everyone else. Where it's like, in the first one, it's, I'm not going to go over it, but he's, fuck, where was I going with that? He goes to, sorry, so in this movie, his whole thing is that now Bonnie doesn't want to play with him anymore, so the entire movie's conflict is all fueled by Woody's inability to come to terms with the fact that he's not a toy that Bonnie wants to play with. And at one point, it's like they ask him, when were you made? And he said in, I don't know, the 50s. And then he goes to, what's it called? And then he goes to, where later in the movie we see there's a GPS. So it's been a good 50 years this guy's been around. He's been playing with toys. And it's like, this little girl probably doesn't want to play with, with Woody for obvious reasons. She doesn't want to play with a little cowboy toy. Cowboy toys aren't cool, and like she doesn't want to do it. It's not what she wants to do. So he has to come to terms with this, but he doesn't do it right. And he also is feeling belittled because now he's in Bonnie's room. And the movie seemingly picks up almost immediately after 3. Or very soon after 3 picks up. Which I think the character development in this movie makes the most sense the closer you place it in time to 3. Like, the farther out you get from 3, the less it makes sense. But again, I don't remember how old Bonnie was in 3 to be able to say. But that's my biggest problem with this, is that if they kept the movie closer and they made a bigger deal about how long it is after, they made a big deal of saying 9 years early in the movie, but then have no frame of reference to how far between Toy Story 3 and 4 are. And really, time frame between movies is not ever explored in any of these. But they felt the need to explain that it was 9 years before with Bo Peep. They could have just said past and then went forward to present, or done the montage up and you don't even need to say present. Or you don't even need to say past at that point. You can just start it there, then have him growing up, leaving the toys off, and then we go back to Bonnie, and it's there. Now, I'm saying a lot of things I didn't like about the movie, but that doesn't mean it's not a bad movie. There's a lot of effects in this movie, because it's all digitally animated. If you told me that this was... I don't know what percentage of the movie is digitally animated, or they could have just used very, very, like... there's definitely a sheen to things, like a certain, like, plasticity to it, like, but I don't even know how to define it, because it's like, you can tell looking at it that it's not a picture, it's not like Gumball, where it's like things imposed on another background, and you can kind of tell with that. Here, it's kind of bizarre. It's like, it's getting into, not the uncanny valley, because it's like, the humans still look different, and the humans still look like the Pixar face, where it's like, it's very obvious if you watch The Incredibles 2, because all the other characters have the same model, like, body and face, except for The Incredibles, because they were designed at a different time. In this movie, everyone kind of does that too, but like the backgrounds and the environments are so beautifully rendered, and that's probably the strongest thing this movie has going for it. It's very funny. Tony Hale's hilarious as Forky. I like the entire opening montage of him trying to throw himself into the garbage is really funny. And like when he jumps out the window and Woody's dragging him back, and he's just kind of like dragging behind him, and he keeps like walking forward and then getting dragged again. He's like, "Can you please carry me?" And Woody's just like, "No." It's like I think a movie like that, this movie probably would have been better served being Woody doing that one more time, like what he did for Buzz in Toy Story 1. Him doing that again for Forky, except this time Forky doesn't want to be saved. He doesn't understand. Like, Buzz was indifferent to being saved, if I remember correctly. Forky doesn't want to be saved. Him doing that and getting back to Bonnie would have been a more interesting story than this whole thing. I like what they did with Gabby. It was cute. It was heartbreaking when she you can tell early on what her problem is that she always viewed herself as imperfect, and now she has what would make her perfect, and then she feels like that's going to fix everything, and then when she finally gets a moment with the girl, and the girl's like, I want to play with her, it's just heartbreaking. And then at the end of the movie, when she finally finds someone, and then they're getting everyone together so that way Woody can go back with Bonnie, and then Woody stays behind. I think that if it takes place almost immediately after, it's taking a lot of effort to not say Infinity War or Endgame, because those are the last movies we talked about timelines a lot with. If it takes place immediately after Toy Story 3, then that makes sense, because he doesn't have a place in this playroom. This is not a place where he's welcome. And he gave him to Bonnie, but Bonnie doesn't really want him, so he doesn't have a place there. He now has a place, and he's gonna feel whole there, and that's why it makes more sense for it to be closer. But the farther out you get, the longer he's there with Bonnie. I think the decision for him to go and do something else doesn't make sense. And again, this is all predicated on how old Bonnie is. So yeah, the movie did $150, $160 million this weekend, so odds are you're going to see it. And this is not me shitting on the movie. It was very entertaining. Hopefully your IMAX screen doesn't fuck up like mine did. But definitely see this movie. It's very cute. It's a good family movie to see. And it's going to tide you over until Endgame gets re-released next weekend. So we'll be back with I have yesterday on the itinerary, but definitely the re-release of Endgame is going to be coming up, so we can talk in depth about whatever post-credit scene or footage for Black Widow they show for there. So definitely see Toy Story 4. Definitely worth their time. Definitely worth the money. It's only an hour 40 too, which is good. I'm so happy we have these shorter movies now that aren't 3 years long, and you have to sit there for 8 hours, and you're like, holy fuck, just end. It's like this nice mid-ground where it's like between this and the last movie we did this for, which was Men in Black International, it's beautiful. It's like, yeah, Men in Black sucked, but it was like only an hour and a half of sucking. Like, this is an hour 40 of being really good, and I get it. I do think that had they had one other final thought, the part of what made Toy Story for me was the ensemble cast. And really, the more I think, I don't know why I thought that, because I'm thinking about it now. It's like, in the first one, they're all gone, most of it. I mean, the second one's really the only one that really has everyone together. It's 2 and 3. 1 was really just Woody and Buzz for most of it. But yeah, definitely see this movie. It's very entertaining. We'll be back next week with definitely yesterday, possibly Endgame. And we'll be back with that. Have a great rest of your week.